Hello and welcome, everyone. Good to see you, Joe and Jack, Dr. Nick. Jack, I can't believe how fast this year's gone, particularly the last 2 months for me have just disappeared.
I agree, but I love this time of year. A bit of Christmas, getting the family together, the decorations, and of course all the food.
I've been in Australia 35 years now, and I love Christmas down by the beach. I'm not sure I could go back to the lousy weather and dried out turkey.
Well, the holiday period is, yes, about friends, family, and a little overindulgence. Why not? So we're getting a head start on any New Year's resolutions with a little early December detox.
Starting with a digital detox, Joe, we find out why it might be time to break up with your phone.
We'll also examine the Australian researchers looking into the phenomenon of internet trolls.
We get expert advice on keeping our kids safe around water this summer.
Plus, Luke Hines looks deep into iridology, the alternative medicine practice that believes that the eyes really are the window into our bodily function. I'll be all ears for that one.
We'll also take a look at nomophobia, of course, the fear of having no mobile phone. I think I actually have that.
Yeah, I think I've got a bit of that too, Jack, unfortunately. Do you know the average Aussie's spending 5.5 hours a day scrolling on their phone? So if you average that out for a lifespan, that's 17 years of your life scrolling through your phone. That is disturbing.
Oh, that makes me really sad because, you know, on a bad day, I do think I hit maybe 4.5, 5 hours.
Every single day of my
you?
life. Absolutely.
Oh,
I won't
my
even
gosh.
look at it. Like, I'm on my phone for work every day for hours at a time.
Yeah.
Well, the stats also show that most people are looking at their phones around about every 8 minutes, but only about 1 in 3 have ever actually checked their phone usage or tried the digital detox.
So nomophobia, phone addiction, it's so bad some people can't even go to the loo without taking their phone. Joe?
No, I'm okay with the toilet. I'm okay with the toilet. I've got to confess that here.
So this is why the expert advice is it might be time to hang up your phone.
Everybody has their different reasons for being addicted to their phone. The way that we organise our life is predicated upon this idea that we're always available and will respond immediately. And if we don't, there is the sense as the person that's trying to get in contact with you that something might be wrong. We have this expectation to always have access to information. And, you know, our tools are on there, our card payment system, these algorithms that are inbuilt to maintain our attention, keeps us enthralled. It gives us a sense of dopamine. If you're looking at your phone and scrolling right before bedtime, it can reduce the quality of your sleep. Having your phone in the car with you reduces safe driving behaviours. Even merely having your phone out on the table in front of you reduces the quality and depth of conversations. We can realise that we have a problem with phone dependency. If we have the panic set in immediately when you realise that you're not with your phone. And I think it's good to take check of how you actually feel after you've used your phone. Because a lot of that scrolling, afterward, you might feel a lot worse about yourself. Some good strategies for disconnecting from your phone. You can download applications that simplify the phone so it's not so attractive. You can put your phone on grayscale. You can also put time tracking applications. So at the end of the day, you can see how much you've used your phone. Tell your friends, tell your family that you'd like to stop spending so much time with your phone. You know where I am. You don't need to panic if you can't get a hold of me. Go out, leave your phone at home, have deeper conversations with your partner, with your family, and not necessarily having to have your phone as the third wheel constantly.
One question, if you're going to break up with your phone, is it okay to do it via text, Dr. Nick?
That's a great question, Jack. Anything that separates you from your device is a good thing. But actually, one of the best times to ditch the device, first thing in the morning. Because just like that artificial light is bad at bedtime, disrupting the circadian rhythm, it happens in the morning as well.
Well, Nick, the stats show that 75% of us sleep with our phone directly next to the bed, and about 80% of us, within 10 minutes of waking up, are on our phones.
I am so guilty of that.
So I've got a tip for you here. First thing in the morning, don't look at the device, look out the window, look broad at the horizon for at least 5 minutes. It has an incredible effect on calming the brain. You should try it.
It's a good tip, Nick, because when you think about logging onto social media first thing in the morning, it's an awful way to start your day. The amount of negativity that's in that world, not a great way to get started.
Well, that's right. Keyboard bullies and online trolls are an internet age phenomenon that we can all do without. And now, in a world first, an Australian researcher is investigating investigating what creates them.
I define internet trolling as an antisocial online behaviour whereby the internet troll posts inflammatory, provocative comments, and their intention is to upset and disrupt the social proceedings. They intend to harm. I think one of the most common questions I'm asked is, what's the difference between trolling and expressing an opinion? And for me, the simple answer to that is the intention. Expressing what might be an opinion in a way that you seek or intend to harm somebody, to abuse somebody, to upset somebody. To me, that's the distinction. That's the line in the sand. When I started researching this area about 10 years ago, the most common response that I would hear from people was, just ignore it. Why does it matter? It's happening online. Just turn off the computer or the phone or whatever it is and walk away. By not giving it attention, by not treating it like the online abuse that it is, we have just allowed it to grow. And now we're faced with a bit of a conundrum, and what do we do about a behaviour that we know is toxic but has become normalised? We are actually physiologically wired to experience another person's empathy. When I sit with another person, my brain, my neurons mirror that person's emotional experience. We are primed to be social creatures and share the experiences of one another. Now put us behind a screen and suddenly we experience that empathic deficit. We cannot see them. We cannot share their experience. So that could be a really good explanation as to why we might engage in more aggressive or abusive behaviour that we simply would not do if we were face to face. We can look to empathy programs and interventions and try and enhance that digital empathy as a mechanism of targeting and overcoming this behaviour. The thing that often surprises me is that behaving this way online in a way that menaces, distresses, or is designed to upset or threaten another individual is a criminal act. It is in Australia's criminal code. Yet for some reason, we've reached a level of complacency where it's just more accepted and tolerated. We need to treat these instances of online abuse like the crimes and cybercrimes that they are. For the everyday person who might perhaps engage in this behaviour, who might be using the online environment as their proverbial punching pillow for when you have had a bad day. Biggest thing that I would encourage to remember is that there is that human on the other side of the screen.
It's bad enough among some adults, but the trolling that goes on in teen chat groups is just horrific.
Couldn't agree more, and it's definitely something I'm trying to educate my girls on really early, but it's difficult.
You know, Jack, I only worked out recently there was a comment section and someone was having a go at one of my old teammates. I wanted to find their address, go around to their house and grab hold of them, which Beck decided was not a great way to approach it.
You were going to go around and have a respectful conversation.
Possibly. Some of the stuff that's said is outrageous.
Well, one of the most important things to do with online trolling is just not respond, don't engage. Oh, and turn off caps lock, because those capital letters always look like you're yelling.
Again, good balanced advice, Dr. Denning. I like my solution a little bit more. But anyway, up next, the incredible detection dogs that are saving species from extinction. Great story next on the House of Wellness.
So when we think about the brain, we rarely think of it as a muscle. We always think about ourselves in the brain and all of these problems we have and all of these issues, but no, the new evidence and science is showing us that we actually understand the brain for the first time in a completely new way. The biggest change that's happened in the last 10 years is that we can actually see inside the living brain for the first time in 7,000 years of history. We can sequence every cell in the brain and our body and every species, so we know where we've come from. And the biggest breakthrough in terms of longevity, joyfulness, happiness, is understanding the brain's really plastic, and that's the concept of neuroplasticity and the brain's ability to become healthy, strong and happy across your lifespan by certain practices that can really drive that. So this is my favourite thing to talk about, some tips for brain health and fitness. And the first thing to do to make it really simple is as soon as you wake up in the morning, I want you to just take your eyes and look out the window and take a panoramic view, rather than going straight to your phone or some narrow view, because what you're doing is you're actually using your physiology for your favour. So you're immediately turning down your stress system just by opening your eyes wide into the open world, compared to taking a narrow view, which activates your stress system. We actually understand that now. We understand that's a direct link between the way your eyes work and your nervous system that causes stress. So it's such a simple thing to do, not easy to do because we're in our habits, but it's the number one thing that can really drive neuroplasticity and a big change in your life, because you're actually starting to then get your brain to then go and look for all the evidence to show you all the good things happening in life. Whereas you do the opposite, you're setting up your brain because it likes stress more than happiness and pleasure at 10 times the rate. It's just designed that way to keep us alive. And so then for the rest of the day, your brain will always be looking for threats. It is simple, but why is it hard to do? So why aren't we doing this in the world? Why aren't we happy, healthy and strong? Why is there an escalation in an acceleration of mental health problems or people being stressed or busy and all of these things in an amazingly abundant world? Why? It's because of the way the brain's built and no one's being taught how to train their brain like a muscle. But the hard part is doing it every day, because things are happening in your life, right? Stress isn't going away in life. It's really real. And so because of the way stress goes into the brain, it keeps us stuck. We go straight back to the things we learnt over a lifetime and your parents learnt over their lifetimes. Our brain is not born a blank slate. We come predetermined by our genetics, and then the way our experiences shape our early life has a big impact on our belief system. So you can see why, yes, it's simple, but to step into this new cocktail of neuroplasticity where you're changing your future that's different to your ancestors can't happen easily, can it? Because you're literally shifting into a whole new mindset and life. So no wonder people are stuck. And people like to put it on the individual and say, if only they did this, if only they had more willpower. But when you understand how the brain works, that's just not possible, because you have to train the brain first to make it possible for people. It's the first step.
Das, we've just seen the importance of when we wake up to get that beautiful early morning light, to look out the window rather than getting on our phones. And it's summer, of course, plenty of light, but that also means we really need to be conscious of being sun smart as well.
Yeah, not just for us, Jack, but for animals as well. It hadn't occurred to me that we need to think about being sun smart for our pets, but that's definitely the case.
That's true. I haven't actually used sunscreen on my dog, but you know what? My daughter's little pony, he's a grey pony and he has a pink nose, so we put zinc on his nose every day.
I didn't know that, Jack. You learn something every day on the House of Wellness. Now, I love starting the day walking Dennis, the blue staffy, with Beck, and we know that taking a dog for a walk promotes a healthier life, but so too does a dog having a good social life as well, Jack.
That's true. Dogs that are around people and other dogs, well, it's the best form of ageing for a dog as well.
And that connection between us and our animals is really special. I know you're a great animal lover, Jack, for sure.
Yeah.
But what we're finding out now is that special bonds also being helped to protect our vulnerable Australian wildlife. Check it out.
The platypus is actually a really key and unique species in terms of global biodiversity. So they're the only one of its kind, and they're a really old species. They're thought to be the very first species of mammal that ever existed. So they have a lot of common reptilian features, perhaps from when the dinosaurs were around. So they still lay eggs. The males are venomous, just like a snake, yet they feed their young with milk. So they are technically a mammal.
The platypus is so peculiar that we still have a lot to learn about these vulnerable creatures, including how to best protect them from extinction.
In order to conserve a species, we first need to understand it. In terms of the platypus, that's understanding their reproduction and how they use their habitat. And being a very cryptic species, it makes it very difficult for us to study them out in the wild. They're a small brown animal that lives in a brown habitat, and they spend their time underwater or underground, and they're nocturnal. So a lot of the time, it's not that they're not there, it's just that we as humans are not very well designed to see them. So to do a population estimate on them, we set up a series of nets within the creek, and then we need to stay up all night and check the nets every couple of hours and process any animals that you capture and release. But even then, as I discovered myself even this year, they just won't go into your nets either. And they've actively been seen going up and over a series of nets, and nobody ever captured them.
Thankfully, researchers like Dr. Jessica Thomas no longer have to fumble around in the dark. Zoos Victoria have trained 6 curious canines at Healesville Sanctuary to identify the distinct odours of our most endangered species, revolutionising how wildlife is monitored and protected.
We don't care about our detection dogs' breeds. We have Labradors, Kelpies, Border Collies, even a little Lagotto, which is our smallest dog on our program. But they all share some really important characteristics, and that's that they're highly motivated for something. So that could be the tennis ball, the tug toy, food. And once we have that, we then start the dogs understanding the game of scent detection, which is actually a really basic thing. So it's find this particular smell, which could be a platypus, it could be a bawbaw frog. And once you found that smell, we then have a party. So that party could be with a tennis ball, a squeaky tug toy, a meat shower, which is basically throwing up food in the air and they have to catch it. And then once they have that understanding of this smell equals an amazing thing, we then start moving that odour into more and more complex areas and start training the dogs how to search really effectively for that smell.
Yippa, this way.
Our dogs have to love going on adventures, so all aspects of that, travelling out to the site, going through dense vegetation, these are the dogs that just think going for a hike days after days after days is just the most incredible thing. So when our dogs locate their target species, their trained alert is to sit and wait for us to come over and verify what they've found.
The idea is that we can take the dog out into an area where we know that there are platypus living, sort of run them around along the bank, and they can tell us, there's one, there's one, there's one, there's 10 in this area here. And that will allow us to sort of keep a bit closer eye on the population over time. And it's less invasive for the animals. But also in the event where we do maybe need to capture and release animals, the dogs can actually help us locate where the burrows are.
This program at Zoos Victoria has been going since 2019, and we've been slowly growing our team and our team's capacity since then. So we're lucky to now work with mammals, reptiles, amphibians, and we'll also be adding our very first bird species over the coming year, which is very exciting. One of our biggest conservation wins to date has been with our detection dog Moss. He is our 3-year-old Labrador retriever, and recently he actually discovered a broadtooth rat population adjacent to Healesville Sanctuary in the Corranderk Bushland Reserve. And this was absolutely incredible because broadtooth rats are a threatened native rodent species. They've got incredibly chubby cheeks and they're absolutely gorgeous. So that was an incredible win that we wouldn't have had without our detection dogs being involved.
The detection dog program does give me hope for the future for the platypus because by them being able to locate the animals for us, it will give us a greater opportunity to study them into the future and answer a lot of the questions that still remain about them as a species.
Oh, how gorgeous and clever were those dogs? And don't you think dogs are so much more advanced than humans? They're just so intuitive.
Dogs are so much better than humans, Jo. And their sense of smell is 40 times stronger than that of a human, which is obviously why they spend so much time at every tree.
And dogs can sniff out medical problems and they can sniff while they're breathing at the same time, which I love watching our Labrador Daisy do that.
Jo, they are quite simply the best, which is no doubt why they are the most popular pet on the planet.
That's right. Well, up next, Luke Hines finds out why the eyes are the window to the health.
We've all had those moments, that tip of the tongue thing. Who is that actor in that film? It's that, gone. And as we get older, these moments tend to worry us more. Is this the start of the slippery slope? Forgetfulness sliding inexorably into something worse? When we're young, our brains are like an endless series of highways and byways, brightly lit, and anything is possible. But as we age, the weeds start to grow. And if we keep travelling down the same few paths, the others risk being taken over by the jungle and becoming lost, inaccessible, lights out. So to keep the jungle at bay, we need to step off our safe, familiar paths to find the new ones. And here are some tips to do just that. Hopeless at dancing? No problem. Now's the time to learn. Moving to a rhythm, learning new steps is a great way of connecting nerves and muscles. Even just practicing balancing on one leg is really helpful. Too easy? Try it with your eyes shut. Oh! Then there's the incredible power of words and language. Memorise a poem, recite it to your lover from the heart. Or take up crosswords. Start with the quicks and work your way up. By the time you've mastered the cryptics, you'll have opened so many paths, you might even get lost. If you're right-handed, the left side of the brain gets a good workout while the other side has a bit of a snooze. So why not wake it up by making the left hand do things it doesn't want to? Carry the shopping, mouse, shave with the wrong hand. Not easy. Or try writing or brushing your teeth with your left hand. Whoa, that's hard. Perfect. But why work just one side of the brain when we can exercise both at the same time? Great. Learn to juggle. Proven to increase brain connections. Whoa! So, get to work. Hack your way through the jungle to open up those new paths. Just remember to hold your machete in the wrong hand. Well, as we age, two of the things that actually need replacing quite commonly are the hard-working knees and hip joints. And the last decade have seen the numbers skyrocketing. They're currently around 75,000 Aussies on the waiting list.
What is going on with that, Dr. Nick?
It's a great question, Jack, and it's probably a combination of things like obesity and we're all getting older, plus 65 now the new 45, and we all want to keep active a bit longer.
And with advancements in technology, there's also a lot going on with artificial joints, Dr. Nick?
Yeah, that's right, because they've now used a 3D printer to create these plates that are used in an operation called an osteotomy, which helps preserve the patient's own joint. And the trial patient was actually back to competitive cycling within 6 months, which is amazing. So I might actually try it for my dodgy knee.
Now, I know you love the bike, Nick, which is great for that knee of yours, as does Luke Hines. Well, this time we've got him taking his foot off the pedal as he heads to the Billabong Health Retreat to find out what lies behind our eyes.
We've all heard that classic saying that the eyes are the window to our soul. But what else can our eyes tell us? Well, iridologists believe that the eyes are also the window to our health. So today, I'm going to find out what my baby blues reveal about me.
So we've just taken your photo and got that uploaded here, and I'm going to go through a few different aspects of your eyes. So we'll be looking at the white part of your eye, the coloured part, as well as the pupils.
Okay. And what is iridology?
Iridology is the observation of the eye, and the colours and the patterns and the structure of the eye can tell so much about your health. Where their digestion is at, how they react to stress, personality tendencies and traits, as well as other basic things like the state of their lymphatic system, whether they process toxins, how well their bowels are moving, and what their circulation's like.
You've listed off some varying factors there, but can you diagnose disease through iridology?
Iridology is a screening tool. It's not diagnostic, so it tells us of the potential and the areas that need nurturing in the body. Your pupil's actually quite a really good size. There's a few minor flattenings there, so that can indicate that you've had some issues potentially with your back. So do you get any issues with lower back and mid back there?
Yeah, it's funny. In the last few months, I've actually found out through massage that my back is out of alignment. One side is pulling, so I've had a sore neck, and I always thought it was the neck, but it's actually the back.
Yeah. So
what are the origins of iridology?
Iridology goes back hundreds of years. The ancient Egyptians were observing each other's eyes, but modern iridology was really from the 1800s, where the masters of iridology were looking into people's eyes and really tying it into the physical anatomy of the body and linking markings in the eyes to specific areas, for example, the liver or the heart. Now iridology has developed even further, and now we're starting to connect the mental and the emotional aspects of a person to signs in their eyes as well. So it incorporates the physical and emotional. Moving out then, looking at the rest of your body, you've got a blue eye type. Now, blue eye types are more prone to things, to inflammation.
Okay.
So how this can make you feel is like achiness, any sort of inflammatory condition, whether that be allergies, whether that be just pain in the body as well.
Tell me the balance between the physical ailments and emotional and spiritual ailments that you see in the eye.
Every aspect in the eye has got both a physical or then an emotional connection. So, for example, I might be looking into the lung area of your eye and you might say, nope, haven't had any issues there. But then I might turn to the related emotion, which is grief. And it might be that you've definitely had some impact in that area. If you notice here, there's a fair bit of greying just on the outside of the pupil there, and that can indicate that your stomach isn't producing enough gastric acid. So when you're eating, you may feel quite full, even though you're having a smaller meal, or if you're having something heavier like a meat, you may feel a little bit more bloated. And that also shows in the whites of your eyes how we've got that little bit of yellowing happening on the outsides there.
It's been said that in iridology, you're not just seeing my health, you might see generational health. What does that mean?
So when I'm looking into your eye, it's not just your health and your potential in this lifetime, but it's also what you've inherited. And whether you have the best or worst case scenario is dependent on the way that you eat, drink, think, live and love. With the pattern that I'm seeing in your eye, sometimes this style can result in times where you've got lots of energy and then feeling quite fatigued, and that's where you may want to reach for a coffee or something sweet just to pick you up and keep you going. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that is...
And we look at ourselves in the mirror every day in some way, but I don't think we really look deeply. What do you think iridology can do?
Iridology really taps into that traditional wisdom. And through that, we can learn just the simple ways when people are feeling really overwhelmed and don't know where to start, which avenue to take. Iridology can just scratch that surface and just be the beginning of a beautiful journey to get you to be the best version of yourself.
They say when we truly deeply look into somebody else's eyes, we get a better understanding of who they are and can forge a deeper connection. Here at Billabong Retreat, I worked with Anne in my iridology session to work out who I am, but from a health perspective. Now, I learnt things that I wouldn't ordinarily see on a day-to-day basis, but the exciting thing is I've got some tools and techniques that I can implement over the next 6 to 12 months so that I can be happier and healthier physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and I can't wait.
Luke Hines there at the Billabong Health Retreat. He'll be back with Zoe a little later to cook up some healthy fast food. Yes, there is such a thing. Plus the expert water safety advice for summer.
Jack, my kids absolutely loved Lego growing up. How about yours?
Mine too. They're still right in the zone. Very popular in our house.
And Lego have taken a whole new step forward by making the Braille version of the toy bricks available to the general public.
Does it's all about encouraging everyone to learn Braille, because previously it was only available to those working in the education sector with the vision impaired.
Well, it's a bit like Auslan, Jack, being taught in our schools more extensively now, introducing a whole new language to the non-deaf community.
Well, it's all about learning new things, Stars. And what about weeds as food? Well, it's not as unusual as you might think.
There are edible foods all around us, many of them in unexpected places. I'm Anna the Urban Nana, and I'm going to show you some of them. One of the first species that people tend to learn about when they start foraging is dandelion. It's actually a part of a pretty large family that has many different edible species in it, so it's good to know who's who. What we're looking at here is probably what you recognise as true dandelion. It tends to grow in a sort of rosette of leaves coming out from one central place, and it'll have one or many flowers coming out. Now, the way to tell it's a true dandelion is to have a look at the leaves. They're really strappy and they're quite tender, a bit like a lettuce leaf, really. And they have these fairly sharply pointed lobes. And that's actually where the name dandelion comes from. It's from the French phrase dent de lion, the tooth of the lion. What we've got here is one of dandelion's cousins, and a lot of people do confuse it with dandelion because it has similar yellow flowers. This plant, though, is what's called sow thistle, Sonchus oleracus, and we can tell it's not a dandelion because it's growing really tall and it has a stem that sort of tends to be a bit purple, and the flowers grow in clumps. You can use this in the same way that you use dandelion, using the greens as salad edibles or adding them to soups and stir fries, and you can also pickle the flower buds to make what's known as poor man's capers. One of the things you could do with dandelion is use it in tea. You can use them fresh or dried, and you can also add the dried roasted roots of the dandelion root into something like a forager's tea blend, which is really nice to have when you're out foraging. But if you've got an absolute abundance of wild weedy greens, the best thing you can do is add a bit of oil, some nuts, and make it into a weedy green pesto. You can keep this in the fridge for months, or you can even freeze it in ice cube trays, and it'll last you all the way throughout the year. And you'll be catching and storing the energy and nutrition of those weeds to use whenever there's a bit of scarcity in your garden. It's important when you're starting to eat green weeds that you don't introduce too many at the one time. Your gut can have a bit of a hard time digesting it when you're learning what they're like, but also they tend to have a bit more of a bitter or good for you taste. And as the old saying goes, if in doubt, just leave it out.
Well, summer generally means water, and where there's water sometimes means associated tragedy, Dr. Nick.
Yes, Jo, because sadly 281 Australians died by drowning in the last year in Australia. And in kids aged 1 to 14, it's the third most common cause of death, which is awful because it's all preventable.
It's frightening to think that it takes only 20 seconds and a few centimetres of water for a child to drown.
Yeah, and we discovered recently that many Australian parents aren't actually up with the latest water safety advice. And, of course, sadly, quite a lot of Australian kids missed out on their swim lessons during all those lockdowns.
Well, the Director of Trauma Services at the Royal Children's Hospital, Dr Warwick Teague, has seen the tragic repercussions firsthand, and he's urging parents and all people, in fact, to be swim smart this summer.
So for as long as any of us can remember, summer in Australia is often about getting near or in water, but we have had to suffer, along with that, each summer a spike in drowning events. Almost all young children who drown do so in a situation which is absent from constant active adult supervision. Drowning can happen very quickly. We're talking about within seconds, less than a minute. The children that come to this hospital following a drowning event, they'll often arrive with ongoing advanced life support, so people pressing onto their chest to help their heart to beat. These are paramedics who are sustaining this child's life, and the child is often clinging to life. To see a beautiful child arrive in our hospital, see their life taken from something which is entirely preventable, is terribly upsetting. There's always a legacy to these events. There's always the upset and the hurt that has been caused. And hopefully there's also a legacy of learning, an opportunity to take stock, and for all of us to think about how can we prevent drowning events in our children. And yes, there are simple things we can do. One of the key tenets of safety around the water is constant active adult supervision. A child that is less than 5, so 0 to 4, must be within arm's reach. We must be able to reach out immediately and grab that child as they go underwater, and we must be watching them through all of that time, because we know that drowning can be silent, it often is. For the slightly older child, we don't need the child who's between 5 and 9 to be within arm's reach, but they do need to be within eyesight. We can't be checking on our mobile. We can't be updating our Facebook profile during the course of that supervision. And this is our responsibility as the adult and caregiver. We talk about keeping children away from water, and perhaps people have in their mind a pool, a deep dam, and maybe a big river. Let's shrink that reality down a little bit. Children can drown in centimetres of water. Children drown in creeks, they drown at the side of bodies of water, in areas where they might even be able to stand up. We do need to be vigilant around the obvious dangers of deep water, but let's never forget the need to be caring for children around even shallow water areas. Enjoy the water, but do so in a way that is now eyes open to the realities and the risks. It's really simple. Within arm's reach, within eyesight. That's within all of our capabilities, but we are going to have to discipline ourselves just that little bit more, perhaps, every day of the year.
Dandruff is a common condition that can be caused by a scalp microbiome imbalance. This results in our skin shedding more skin cells seen as scalp flakes. While it's not serious for our head, the problem often stems from in our head, embarrassment and anxiety for every flake of skin that lands on a black top. Unfortunately, dandruff will keep coming back if not addressed regularly. Typical shampoo options have either been effective but unpleasant to use, or on the flip side, lovely smelling, beautiful products that simply don't work. There was never the option benefiting both the scalp and the senses until now. Detox Anti-Dandruff DS shampoo eliminates up to 100% of dandruff flakes from first use. It has a unique formula with derm actives such as selenium DS, scientifically proven to help rebalance the scalp microbiome. Dermatologically tested and recommended, it provides 6+ weeks of anti-dandruff relapse. The range includes a shampoo designed for normal to oily hair, dry hair, or a sensitive scalp. There's also a deep purifying option because just as we're all different, so is our hair. Whichever you choose, apply to wet hair, massage, leave in for 2 minutes, then rinse. The saying goes that hair is the crown you never take off. Is there any more incentive to invest in your hair care or scalp? I don't think so.
Joe, a couple of weeks back, we shared the incredible story from Rwanda of life-saving blood and medical supplies being delivered to remote areas by drone.
Yes, and drones are revolutionising the health space, Das. Get this, in Sweden, a 71-year-old who had a heart attack while shoveling snow was saved when an autonomous drone dropped off a defibrillator. It took just 3 minutes and even beat the ambulance.
That is an incredible story, Joe, on every level. From life-saving speedy deliveries to fast food, Joe. Now, we know fast food isn't always great, but my love of hot chips always overrides that, Joe, you know, and they are fast and they are good.
You do love your hot chip, stars. There's no doubt about it. But it is Christmas time, so it is not the time to be denying ourselves the food we love. And luckily, Hines and Zoe has found a way to make fast food junk-free.
We're in the thick of event season, Zoe, celebrating everything we've achieved over the past year.
And it's often a time where health takes a little bit of a backseat, Lukey. There's Christmas parties, barbecues, and all of these occasions are often tempting us to take a little bit more of the fast food options, but also there's a lot of food wastage as well.
I love your festive spirit today, and whilst we're not against you letting your hair down, we have 2 recipes that can combat both of those issues.
That's right, Lukey. And my salad is utilising leftover roast veggies. I'm giving them a new lease of life that will tickle your taste buds.
Oh, sounds delicious. And before you go ordering those high trans fat fries that have a myriad of health implications, you've got to try my perfect crispy sweet potato fries.
Oh, yum. Now, for those non-potato experts out there, can you explain why a sweet potato fry is the healthier option?
Well, first off, any fry is a delicious fry, but these are healthier because they're more nutrient dense. They're loaded with vitamin A, fibre and potassium.
The other thing is cooking methods matter. Now, fast food chains typically deep fry, which nearly doubles the calorie content, no matter what potato you're using, unlike your baking method.
And don't tell me that this cooking method takes any longer than the massive queue at your local takeaway joint. And a little bit of advice, if you've had a few Christmas bevies, be careful with the knife when you're chopping up these. Now, as for those leftover foods post-party, what are your tips here?
Now, it may seem obvious, but make last night's dinner as tomorrow's lunch. You can simply zhuzh it up like what I'm doing here. It saves time and money, which is so valuable this time of year.
And my tip, surprise and delight. This time of year can be really stressful, hectic, and also lonely for many. So those leftovers that you've got that might feel scrappy to you could be a really heart-filling, nourishing meal for someone else, and also a great gesture to just show that you care.
Oh, Lukey, I love that. Bring it here. Sorry.
Chip hug, yeah. Oh, there we go. Oh, that's nice.
I do love you very much.
That's our best hug ever. All right.
Well, that's almost all we've got time for today. And in fact, for season 2023 of the House of Wellness, it's been a lot of fun spending the year with the three of you. Thanks again.
It's been amazing. One of my highlights for 2023, let me see, I think it would have to be Collingwood winning the grand final. I can't help it. But it's been an amazing year for sport, hasn't it, Jack?
Oh, couldn't agree more. I think on everyone's highlight list this year will be the Matildas and just what that whole World Cup did for women in sport. It was really amazing.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, Jack. But for me personally, the highlight was the marriage of my gorgeous first daughter, Dr. Isabel. Nothing quite so special as walking down the aisle with your little girl.
And you came and shared the wedding cake as well.
Yes.
Nick. You're as happy as I've ever seen you before. I have to say my favourite was taking Luke, Hines and Abby Holmes up to Bali, to Sukhavati Bali, our Ayurvedic health retreat, which I'm really passionate about. And equally excited to be giving away 4 trips to the House of Wellness family to spend a week at Sukhavati, complimentary of us.
Sukhavati is hands down the best luxury holistic retreat in Asia. And yes, we're giving away not 1, but 2 one-week stays for 2 people.
Oh, can I please win? It includes everything, your airfares, your transfers, your accommodation, the villa, the wonderful treatments, yoga, and of course, the great food.
Very simple to enter as well, Jack. Head to the House of Wellness website. That's houseofwellness.com.au. Follow the prompts, and we will be giving away on the 18th of December. The competition closes. 4 opportunities to spend a week at Sukhavati, Bali.
Now, that really would be a Christmas present worth winning.
It will be a bit dodgy if you win, Nick, somehow. What a treat it has been spending the whole year with the three of you. Thanks again.
It has been an absolute treat, and you can tune into House of Wellness Radio every Sunday with Gerald Quigley and Luke Hines until December 17.
Have a safe and happy New Year. We'll see you all again next year.
Thanks, as always, to our great friends at Chemist Warehouse. See you next year.